kick things off tonight with the final primary contest ahead of the November 8th midterms. Voters heading to the polls in 3 states, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Delaware. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu seeking a 4th term. He had considered a Senate run late last year, but opted to run for re-election to governor instead. That decision set off a heated GOP primary in the biggest race there tonight. Retired Army Brigadier General Don Bolduc is the frontrunner in this Republican race, facing State Senate President Chuck Morse. The winner goes up against incumbent Democratic Senator Maggie Hassan in November. For more on this, Robert Costa joins us now, CBS News' chief election and campaign correspondent. All right, Bob, what are the dynamics at play in this GOP primary in New Hampshire? I assume it circles around former President Trump.
Scott, so good to be with you. When you look at this New Hampshire Senate Republican primary, it really is a prism into the dynamics at play, not only in the Granite State, but inside the Republican Party across the country. In the state Republican leader in Chuck Morse, you have someone who the Republican establishment would like to see as the nominee, someone they think has a real shot against the incumbent Democrat this fall. But the Trump allied candidate in Don Bolduc, even though he has not yet won Trump's endorsement, is someone who's running as a Trump-style Republican. He is stirring up the grassroots, trying to have a Trump-type fervor in New Hampshire. And it's that tension that's at the heart of this primary and so many primaries across the country this year about where the Republican Party is going and who is going to be the standard bearer in each of these major contests.
We mentioned Governor Chris Sununu and the incumbent Democratic Senator Maggie Hassan are both back up for re-election this year. From your reporting, what's your assessment of how they've campaigned so far?
These are two people, separate parties, who were both seen as potentially embattled this election year, and they are both still facing competitive races in the sense that New Hampshire is a competitive state. It's become one of those more purple states time and time again. Throughout different political cycles. In New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, you have someone from a real political lineage in that state. His father was a former governor, chief of staff to George H.W. Bush. His brother, John E. Sununu, a U.S. Senator, Chris Sununu, now finishing the family's legacy with this generation as the governor of the state, running as someone who's more out of that George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush model inside the Republican Party. He's been highly critical of former President Trump, yet because of New Hampshire's dynamics in the state and the Republican Party, he's still able to win over many Trump voters at the same time. And then you have Senator Maggie Hassan, a former governor, someone who's now a senator, and she has been facing political headwinds like so many Democrats this year, but she is also playing to issues that have really galvanized Democratic voters in recent weeks, especially abortion rights after the Supreme Court's ruling on Roe v. Wade.
Looks to me like you're in Scranton, Pennsylvania, president's hometown. So we have a huge Senate race in Pennsylvania. All eyes on that Senate race. Based on your reporting, what's your assessment of where it stands now between the Republican Mehmet Oz and the Democratic Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman?
I am in Scranton, Pennsylvania, home to the hometown of President Biden, of course, also for the Office fans out there of Michael Scott. This is a place that is in northeastern Pennsylvania. It's a working city. It's had some tough times economically. You look at through the downtown here. I was walking through it earlier today, talking with voters. A lot of shuttered businesses and economic pain being felt by many here in Scranton and across Pennsylvania. You have the two Senate candidates, John Fetterman, the Democrat, Mehmet Oz, the Republican, making their overtures to voters here and across the state in their own way. Fetterman in particular has, like Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire, talking about abortion rights and about what's on the ballot this fall, what's really at stake with this midterm election season. And then you have in Mehmet Oz someone who's been backed by former President Trump, but trying also to align himself with other wings of the Republican Party, facing real questions about his residency from some voters we've spoken with, wondering why he moved to Pennsylvania in recent years from New Jersey.
Also, that pivotal gubernatorial race, Republican Doug Mastriano running for governor and echoing a lot of former President Trump's false claims about the election and also shunning traditional media in the Commonwealth. How's that impacting what could be a close race against the Democrat Josh Shapiro?
Josh Shapiro is a high-profile attorney general here in Pennsylvania, has led many major prosecutions from his office. And he is someone who is seen as a potential rising national star in the Democratic Party. His opponent, Republican Doug Mastriano, couldn't be more low profile in the sense that he does shun traditional news outlets. Last time I was in Pennsylvania, I tried to cover a Mastriano event, and a gentleman in a tri-corner hat said, "No, sir, you're not allowed to enter because you're from a mainstream news outlet." That's kind of the scene here in Pennsylvania when it comes to covering Doug Mastriano, though CBS News crew was able to cover him earlier today. And he's making a pitch to voters that he's a Trump-type candidate, very conservative when it comes to policies on the economy and abortion and so many other issues. He also is someone, as you've covered so deeply and well, Scott, a figure of interest in the January 6 episode, has been questioned by the January 6 committee on Capitol Hill about his role in trying to block the certification of President Biden's election in Congress. He was in Washington on the day of the Capitol attack.
Yeah, and that interview with the January 6 Select Committee didn't last very long. In Scranton, Pennsylvania tonight, Bob Costa. Thanks so much.
Thank you.